Hello there and welcome. In this video I got you 10 tips and tricks about food, farming and everything between these topics in Rimworld. We're going to be talking about how much food you need per person, how to plan your farming yields, what's the difference between meals and Nutri-Paste meals, and a lot of other different things. I hope this video will be helpful, and let's get started into number one. Let's talk about the basic crops that exist in Rimworld. We have three crops that I personally see as the very basic crops. That are potatoes, corn, and rice. They all three roughly yield the same amount of harvest over 60 days, which is a Rimworld year, but they have a few differences from one another. Rice being the one that grows fastest, but also therefore keeps your farmers the most busy because you have the most effort in putting it out on the field and harvesting and carrying it around again. Potatoes are in the middle ground. They have the medium growth time and therefore medium work investment. Their general advantage is their low fertility sensitivity, which means they don't care about bad soil as much as other crops do. This is a real big advantage because at the end of the day, this means that even the most bad soil is working for these. And at the end of the crop line here stands the corn, which has the longest growth time, but the highest yield, which means at the end of the day, it is the crop with the lowest work investment because you put it onto the field at one time and then it grows and then you have less work at the end of the day. This is the advantage of corn. The downsides here are corn has a high risk. If it gets blighted, you lose a very high yield at the end of the day. Potato has the downside fertility sensitivity, which is an advantage, can also be a downside. If you want to grow potato on fertile soil, it's actually pretty much a waste because there's not much going on here in terms of sensitivity, and on very fertile soil, you're always better off with all the other crops. And for rice, yeah, well, I already put it down. It's a lot of work with a low yield, so that's the only thing. Interestingly enough, rice has the highest yield per year of the all three, with a slight advantage over the three. It's only very minimal, but it is actually the most effective one. Now, let's talk number two. What about the other crops that we can grow? Strawberries, luxury. They stand efficiency-wise a little bit between corn and potato. They grow a little bit faster than the corn, but the yield is so low, lower than the potatoes, that their main advantage is that they can be eaten raw without a penalty, and that's about it. You don't get any advantages if you put it into your meals or anything. I like to put up strawberry plants just for the fluff, but if you are about efficiency, you can pretty much skip these guys. Nutrifungus is something you will only need for ideology people that like mushrooms. Otherwise, you can totally skip that because people will be unhappy about that. It's got to be noted though that this is the only subterranean crop that you can really live off. At least that I know of. Correct me where I stand wrong, please. Then we got, last but not least, the cocoa plants. They also count for me into the food crops because they yield chocolate. Chocolate is absolutely a luxury good, but it should be noted that it has a recreational value, it makes people happy, and it doubles down as a trade good with a high shelf life. So I personally see chocolate as a very, very profitable farming thing. It is probably the most profitable thing food-wise that you can grow on fields. Not to be talking about industrial crops. We're going to be covering these in a hot minute. Now, number three. How much food, how much fields, how much do I need? This is a very difficult question and none that I can answer for each colony as a blanket solution, because it always depends on where you sit on the world. If you have a permanent summer, it is the easiest thing to manage. If you have only very limited amounts of time in the year, that you have growth time. This growing period thing here is the most important thing to note. The shorter the growing period, the more fields you require per colonist. The shorter it is, the more, and the longer the growing period down to permanent summer, you can come with much less fields here. Year-round growing periods, these are where you can keep it lower. As a general thing, each colonist eats roughly 2 meals per day. And if we cook meals, we make foodstuff more valuable, basically. A meal upgrades the crop by 80%. Most of them do, except for the lavish ones. So if we look at the potato, it has a nutrition of 0.05. And if we look at the simple meal, it has a nutrition of 0.9. So overall, we do produce one simple meal out of zero point 0.5 units of nutrition, which means at the end of the day, each colonist eats roughly 20 potatoes a day. If you want to keep it really simple, it's roughly 20 crops per day. Roughly. It is something where I never go into the hardship of calculating things too much because of various reasons that I'll be talking about in this video. But if you if you want to boil it down to plants, I struggle with calculations like these. I am a fond believer of overproductions due to several reasons. If you want to calculate it, please let me know in the comment section because I haven't had the nerve for it. And I don't think it is necessary to enjoy the game either. Now, number 4, let's talk meals. I already have glanced the topic. Simple meals, fine meals, and lavish meals. What's the difference between these? So the simple meal is the most straightforward production. It transforms food from one kind into a meal with higher efficiency. So basically you make more nutrition out of your raw food and eliminate the penalty for eating raw food because people hate eating raw food. This is the one thing that simple meals do, and that's that. The fine meal is straight up an upgrade towards the simple meal because it has the same amount of input in total, but it needs a mixed input. And that means you need different foodstuffs, which makes it harder to produce, and it also requires a higher cooking value, which means fine meals, if you can pull them off, are really good because they give you already a nice mood bonus, but your colony will require a couple of things before they can do it. But my personal verdict is, if you can cook them, always give them the preference over simple meals, because if you put the builds up, you can always make sure that they will cook as many fine meals as they can before they start cooking simple meals, and they're just better. And now at the end of the food chain stands the lavish meal, which does require double the amount of ingredients towards the fine meal. It has a slightly better nutrition value, but only very, very slightly, a little bit more than 10% more, and it makes much happier. This is the major sales point of lavish meals. Overall, lavish meals are luxury and should not be the standard treatment for your colony until you are really filthy rich. The fine meal is the best average thing in between. We're going to be covering Nutri-Paste in a hot minute, but this is what I think about meals. Fine meals, I think, are the best common ground. Until then, go for simple meals. Now, number 5, a quick glance over industrial crops. There's cycoid, smoke leaf, cotton, and tinctoria. I just want to cover these. Well, hay grass is technically also one of these. I just want to cover at this point a very, very important thing. They are not part of your food consumption routine, but they are part of your industrial complex and generate wealth. Use that carefully. It is insane how much money you can generate just out of cloth, cycoid plants, and smoke leaf alone. And if you don't manage that, that can get you into trouble, because the threat in Rimworld is always measured by your colony's total wealth. My general point here is, since this video is also about farming, industrial crops should always be planted only as much as really can and want to use. Overproductions of any kind bring more risk than anything else. handle with care. All right, number 6, while we're talking about stockpiles, I think this is also a nice thing to talk about. Since we now know that every colonist roughly eats 2 meals per day, we also know that we can now stockpile how much we can stockpile for the colony. Generally, I try to have 2 simple meals on my shelf per colonist, so there's always enough food for a day in advance in form of meals. I don't produce more meals than that because meals are inherently more valuable than the raw good, and we've already been talking about wealth. We don't need excess wealth, and therefore keep the total amount of meals as low as you can possibly configure for your own taste. At the other end, I personally think storing more than 15 days worth of raw ingredients is yielding diminishing returns. Here we have again the wealth trap striking, and the other thing is whatever bad event might happen, 15 days of food in advance are enough to survive it. Because even if we get a toxic fallout, these usually don't last longer than a season, and we still are mostly able to hunt things before it comes down. Most of the time, we still have a harvest that we can get in, and heat snaps and heat waves and cold snaps are not nearly as long lasting. So, with 10 to 15 days of a stockpile, you are more than well served, and everything excess can be sold or even be destroyed. Don't shy away of just torching away with fire, which you don't need, because at the end of the day, it's gone from a wealth tab. It's 1 raider less at your next attack, basically. Now, number 7, let's talk cooking versus Nutri-Paste. So this is a long-standing thing that I've been avoiding most of the time. I have almost never a Nutri-Paste dispenser in my colonies, but that is personally something that I think I could do better, because Nutri-Paste is actually excellent for several reasons. For one, you can transform all manner of food into a food that has a minor mood debuff, and that's that. If you don't have any capable cooks but a constructor in the colony which is able to put down a Nutri-Paste dispenser, you are protected from food poisoning. Nutri-Paste meals never induce food poisoning, and that is already alone a very big sales point. I've already seen people saying that they never use any meals because they hate the food poisoning effect so much, so here goes that. It is the easiest way to pull it off, and as far as I heard other people's experiences, here I can't rely on my own because I just don't like playing like that, but it is all you need for the entire game if you want to. You can basically skip the entire cooking minigame here by just serving Nutri-Paste. Done. This is just something that I wanted to say, that here you just opt out of a minor mood buff. In return, you get a lot of safety, and you have much less work on your load on your table. So that's something. Now, number 8, cook training. Since we already now know that cooking is inherently dangerous, we want to minimize these things. I found that butchering is an excellent way of training cooking. Just assign the butcher creature job to a certain person that needs to learn cooking and let them whack away. This is a safe way of training them. The other safe ways that I know about are, I don't have a drug lab here on that run, are going for rolling smoke leaf reefers at the drug lab. This is also training cooking and is absolutely safe, and cooking Psyche tea, which is also doable at the stove and gives you also the cooking training without any food poisoning. Since all of these tasks can be strictly assigned to a singular person, this is a very, very easy way of making sure that you don't inflict severe food poisonings to your colony while training your junior cook. Number 9. Food can be considered also as a safe drug, and that is where I personally think that the lavish meals are actually able to shine. Lavish meals are And so far very interesting, as they induce a 24-hour mood bonus, which can be very useful in defense scenarios. So for example, a couple of lavish meals stored directly behind the front line, forbidden, not to be eaten, stored in a frozen room, or in a mini freezer even, depending on your mods. There's also furniture for that. Just lock them away, and when your folks at the front line go hungry, just let them eat some manually. Even better so, what is a really nice little thing, even if your colonist's food bar is entirely full, they can still eat a meal without any negative repercussions. So you can use these as a safe mood booster that has no downsides. I found that to be pretty awesome, and obviously chocolate can be used for that as well. And if you have any cooking related mods, you can use this too, obviously. All right, number 10 now. The last thing, a couple of things about logistics and builds. First up, try to keep your whole food complex compact. Try to make all of your cooking and slaughtering jobs have a reduced ingredient radius so people don't walk unnecessary lengths. Another nice thing is you can also order your builds in form like this. Let's see, where you can absolutely use that the highest ordered bill will always be produced first. So this way, in case you lack refrigeration, you can tell them to use the meat first, which is a pretty nice thing. And also a nice little logistical trick. Shelf life gets replenished after each production step, which means if you lack refrigeration in the early game out of any given reasons, slaughtering a corpse 1 hour before they expire will give you meat that lasts its full shelf time again. And it's the same thing cooking that said meat in the last few hours before it goes bad into a meal will give that meal its entire full life cycle again. This is something you should know, especially for extreme challenges that take place in very hot or very cold environments, although very cold environments have usually no refrigeration problems, but you get the idea. Using the bill system also as a ordering system of what you want to use first and what you want to use last, or what you want to provide in larger amounts and what you want to provide in smaller amounts. This is basically very much of an improvement already. If you just manage ingredient radiuses and already take care that not the wrong people take those jobs, you are already on like 80% of what you can optimize. All right, so I hope that this video was helpful for you. We're gonna be up for the next things in the next video. Feel free to leave me your comments what you want to see in a different video covered, and obviously give me your other tips so the other people watching this video can browse through the comment section and find even more knowledge down there. I'd love that. So leave a like, leave a subscribe, consider donating via Ko-fi or any other given means. I really appreciate all your help, with a big thanks to all of you that provide, and a big thanks for watching this video, and see you all on the next one.